Welcome back to Feminine Fortune. Today, I'm going to share with you the biggest needle mover for your business, which is my top 5 sales success habits. So what you're going to learn in this episode is what you can immediately start to do to see an increase in your sales and conversions. And in some cases, it's just some small tweaks and changes. So it won't even take much on your part to see a big change. And what you'll get out of today is clarity on how to focus your energy to get the best results each day to move the needle the most. Let's jump right in. The first needle mover I want to share with you is certainty. You may have heard this before, but the person with the most certainty enrolls. So it's like, who is enrolling who and what? Are you enrolling the person that you're speaking with with your certainty into not only the product or service that you're offering them, but like, are you with your certainty enrolling them into their dreams? Because that's also part of what your job is when you are in sales. You're actually enrolling somebody into their dreams because your product or service is the vehicle to help them get to their dreams. Or are they enrolling you into their limitations, blocks, and stories? So someone is always enrolling someone, and it boils down to who is the most certain. If you're the one leading the sale, you get to have the most certainty. You get to have the authority. You get to have that conviction and knowing, and you will win the sale. So something you can start to think about right now, just to get your gears turning and get in that energy, is what is something you just feel so certain about in your life right now? Because when you're in that place of certainty, you come from a place of power. And even if you're not quite in that certainty yet with your sales, I'm sure there's something in your life that you feel certain about now. So you can actually take the certainty from another part of your life and borrow it for your business and your sales. So maybe it's like, duh, of course I'm the best chef on the block. Or of course my, husband cherishes me and we have a great relationship, or whatever it is for you. There's that like just knowing and like, duh kind of factor about that part of your life. And then you can cultivate that, and then that can be borrowed for your sales. So like if you feel like you're having trouble moving forward, or you're having trouble creating certainty when it comes to your offer, when it comes to how you sell, start there. Okay. When you start to cultivate that, what happens is the more certain you are, selling becomes easy. It becomes easy because it's not even about convincing at that point. Nobody wants to feel convinced or persuaded or anything like that. And when you have that certainty, it's like a position. You're positioning yourself. It's so not about pushing, manipulating, convincing, persuading. That's the feminine aspect of selling, because then it's more about like leaning back in your knowing and your certainty and attracting. And then it's just like, I just want to share the goods. I just want to share this beautiful solution that's worked for me, that's worked for my clients, that's worked for my team, whatever it is. And I want you to have that. So why would I not want you to have that solution? Of course, if it's that beautiful of a vehicle for the vision of where they want to go, where you wanted to go, where they want to go. It's like, have you ever heard that phrase, life is an enrollment game? Maybe you've heard that before. It's just like that. So again, examples of certainty. Maybe you have certainty about your favorite restaurant. And whenever you have a friend come in town and visit, you're like, we are going to this Mexican restaurant. And it's like, there's just no ifs, ands, or buts, or questions. It's like, we are going to this Mexican restaurant. Or maybe it's like I just saw the new Guardians of the Galaxy, literally one of the best Marvel movies they have ever made. James Gunn nailed it. Everyone needs to go see Guardians of the Galaxy. It was so good. Conviction. It can apply to everything. So you take that and then all you have to do is cultivate that about your product or service, and selling isn't even selling anymore. It's just like sharing the goods. Point number 2, wealth is the transference of energy. Everything is energy. We've already discussed this on a previous episode. I have a whole podcast episode on it, but let's just revisit it briefly. Everything is energy. So, for example, I was coaching a client this morning and she was sending me her email follow-up with a client. And immediately I'm reading the emails and I'm like, oh my goodness, she has so much impatience here. She's not an insensitive person, but her emails were very insensitive. They came across as very insensitive. And I gave her that feedback and I said, look, I can tell you exactly why. This is a private client of mine. This is like my Limitless Ladies Mastermind client. I was like, I can tell you exactly why this person isn't buying from you. And furthermore, why they're ghosting you. Look at this email. Guess what? The email wasn't about like the way that she wrote the email wasn't about anything. I could have given her the best script. I could have given her, go say this right now, and it wouldn't have worked. Do you want to know why? Because of her energy. Her energy was in impatience. Her energy was in frustration. Her energy, for whatever reason, right? I mean, it's not always about the results. Like she just did $250,000 in Q1. So it's not always about, I'm not where I want to be. Sometimes we just get like that. Sometimes we just get kind of like, I call it for me, like my drama dragon. And it's like my drama dragon, especially that time of the month. And it's like, no matter how good the email is, no matter how good the video is, if there's that energy that's in you for whatever reason, whether it's like an altercation that you had with someone in your life or your hormones or like whatever it is, if you're in that energy, it's going to show. And that's why I said to her, I was like, do not write any other emails until you shift your energy. Do not write any other emails until you shift your energy. And then I'm not going to go into how to do that on like today's episode. I've done that on previous episodes, but I was like, go shift your energy and then come back to this, because when you do the thing, what I call the physical integrity, when you do the thing from that energy, the thing won't work. And that's why I have a whole other episode on the 3 types of sales integrity, which I learned from one of my mentors, because energy is everything. So let's just like briefly go into the energy conversation right now, just to support you. Very practical. What are you consuming? Think about that mind-gut connection. There's just as many, actually, I don't know the actual number, so I'm not going to try to say that. There's a lot, a lot of neurons in your gut. There's a lot of neurons in your gut. And so what you're consuming and what's happening in your gut significantly impacts what's happening in your mind and what's happening in your energy. So what are you consuming in terms of your nutrition? How are you hydrating? For me, if I have a big sandwich in the middle of the day, I'm done for so I'm mostly like, in terms of macros, I'm mostly like fats and proteins up until dinner, minerals, I have like my little sprouts garden over here. I'll go snack on my sunflower sprouts, right? Adaptogens. I mean, that's more nuanced nutrition, but some of that basic nutrition, movement and fitness. Some people like to bounce on a trampoline. I like to in the morning, just step outside, ground, barefoot, look at I don't look directly at the sun, but just looking at the light frequency of the sky is there's a lot of science behind it. So I look at the light, I look at the sky, look at the sun, move around a little bit, go for a morning walk, do my workouts and stuff. Sleep habits, the room needs to be totally dark. Making sure that you get enough deep sleep, enough REM, I have an Aura ring that tracks that for me. And how about also what you consume mentally, so it's sort of like there's what you consume through your mouth, but also what are you consuming? What information are you taking in and consuming? What podcasts are you listening to? I like to be really informed of what's happening in the world, but sometimes I need to go on a little detox of information of what's happening in the world. and news because it does affect my energy. So I'll be like, oh, what's happening? If there's something big happening, I'll go listen. And then, okay, that's enough. And then I go back to like my mindset and empowerment podcast, or like listening to my worship music in those times, or like my fun biohacking podcast, or like even the people. I was talking to someone at the gym the other day, and we like this person, and I love sharing music. And they sent me this song, and the song is called Never Enough by 2 Lanes. If those of you who are like music junkies, you know what I'm talking about. Such a good song. It's an incredible song, incredible track. And like the lyrics are so depressing. Never enough. Like, I'm never enough. Like, that is like casting such a negative spell over your life. So even like the music that you're listening to is casting spells, and to use that language, or like, you know, the power, it's biblical. Like literally the beginning of Genesis is, you know, the power of the word and how God spoke everything into existence. And so if you're letting music or people into, like, you're consuming that information and those words and you're letting that in, it is affecting you. It's affecting your energy, and that's going to affect your results. These are the needle movers, right? If you want an energy injection, I want you to think about how you can audit your nutrition, how you can audit even like the people in your life. Maybe there's something you need to eliminate. Maybe you need to stop having sandwiches in the middle of the day like I did. Maybe you need to eliminate certain people from your life, not in like a mean, bitchy way, but like a way of like, you love yourself more and you love your vision and your dream, or you're more committed to your dream and your vision than you are to enabling and perpetuating negativity. Okay, so that's something I want you to consider, some homework. Given that energy is everything, your energy is so precious. It's so precious, and so protecting it. Okay. Number 3 of the needle movers is focus. Okay. When I first decided to become an entrepreneur, it so did not occur to me that I was stepping into the position of literally wearing at least 10 hats in any given moment. So unless you're watching or listening to this and you're a salesperson who just receives all your leads and you don't have to do any marketing or anything else, you know, there's plenty of people in sales who have that, who are in those sort of types of positions. This won't apply to you as much, but if you are somebody who's more like an entrepreneur who's wearing a lot of hats, or like if you're in network marketing, right? You're not only bringing in your own customers, but you're also supporting your team, and you're also putting out your marketing materials on the socials or on your email list. And you're also, what else are you doing? You're also, I mean, there's so much that you do in the world of network marketing. You're managing, like, if you're trying to maintain like a status, like keeping track of everything, like tracking everything, all the different ways that you can earn income. If you're going for certain bonuses or things like that, tracking all of that. Okay. So you may also find that you wear a lot of hats too, and just have moments where it just feels so distracting and overwhelming and paralyzing. Okay. I've for sure have had moments where I felt like it was too much and I just wanted to curl into a ball and be like, I'm done. Or just avoid certain things. But at some point, I really just realized I couldn't keep doing that. I couldn't stay in avoidance forever. So I really had to set up systems and structures and, you know, my calendar to be set up for certain things at certain times. Like, for example, I have certain times where I'm creating content. I have certain times during the week, like different themes of days for prospecting. I have times for follow-up. I have times for nurturing current clients in all my different businesses. Mondays, I don't take any meetings because I'm in the vision of what are we creating this week and what do I need to lead the way on? Tuesdays and Wednesdays, a lot of calls, a lot of time on video, and whether I'm like in meetings or supporting clients or creating content, right? It's like kind of blocked out versus trying to like be everything and do everything all at the same time. Right. I have times for taking care of my team, both my team in terms of my coaching business, as well as my team in terms of my network marketing business. You know, in terms of my coaching business, sometimes they're humans too. They're not robots. And I get to connect with them and make sure they're good and like be humans and cohesive and synergistic together. I talked to my head of operations yesterday for 45 minutes. Just about life. And that gets to happen sometimes, you know, because people really want to know that you care about them. It's worth your time to do that. So I know a lot of that sounds like a lot if you're just starting. So know that you don't necessarily need all of that right now. You just want to focus on creating sections of time for the relevant things for you. Like you for sure need prospecting time. You for sure need time to nurture your current customers, time for marketing activities, whatever those are for you. So your assignment for this needle mover is, where are you distracted and what's zapping your energy? Where can you kind of like eliminate an activity or organize an activity or a theme a day so that you're not as like distracted trying to do it all at once. Number 4, influence. Okay. Influence is the needle mover number 4. You grow your influence by adding relevant value. Keyword here being relevant. How do I know to be relevant? How do I know how to be relevant? One of my tricks for this that I encourage you to try is I actually embrace objections when I receive them. You know, my clients, when they implement my strategies, often are able to avoid objections altogether. But if and when they or I do receive objections, it's actually like a yay moment because those become content pieces. Because if there's one client having that conversation and having that objection, what that means is there's probably somebody else also having that objection and having that conversation, and being able to handle that objection through content and through education. So for example, if there's an objection of, I'm just thinking of like, let's say like a wellness product, and they don't understand like, why is this wellness product this price? Well, maybe you need to do some education on your social media on why your wellness product is like the Rolls Royce of that category versus like the jalopy off the used car lot and that you're paying for a premium, and there just needs to be some education there. But you don't always know what's going on inside your customer's head until they tell you when you receive an objection. So sometimes when you receive an objection, I want you to, as often as possible, be in the, yay, I just got an objection. This is information for me to be relevant in my marketing moment, because the more relevant you are, the more influence you're going to have. It goes from your marketing falling on deaf ears to your marketing. And by marketing, I mean, you know, your organic social, or if you're running ads, or if you're sending out emails. It goes from your marketing falling on deaf ears to people clicking and looking and spending time watching, and furthermore, clicking and buying and renewing. That all is about relevance, which is the root of influence. Okay. So your people should start to feel like, wow, you really get them. You really hear them. And your content and your products and your services offer the solution that they feel like they need. You also grow influence by being consistent. And this is one of those this is not an overnight situation. This is more of a long-term play, but this is true of your like relationships, as in the way that you are nurturing and connecting with your leads and prospects. This is true of your content, as in like you're posting regularly, frequently. You don't go dark for long periods of time. You don't just stop emailing your list. It could be as easy as repurposing. Like I'll write an email that I take an excerpt from and turn into a reel, that I turn into a story, that I turn into a TikTok, that I turn into a Twitter written post, that I turn into an Instagram written post. You don't have to constantly be making up new things. You can repurpose. And that helps you be consistent. I'm also talking about being consistent for yourself. Like if you tell yourself, I'm going to wake up at X time in the morning, you do that. If you tell yourself, I get to have a beautiful evening, like winding down routine of like taking a bath and journaling and having some tea or whatever it is, you get to do that. Like being consistent with yourself. Like I said, this is what I'm saying. This is not one of those overnight things. It's not a quick fix. It's a long-term play. And what consistency does is it builds trust. And conversely, a great way to break trust is to be inconsistent. So I've seen this with like peers and former clients where it's like they change their focus. You know, 1 minute they're an expert in this, and then the next minute they're an expert in this, and then the next minute they're talking about this. And look, I'll talk about different things. There's a difference between, hey, I'm an expert in sales, and on my stories on Instagram, you'll see me talk about biohacking. You'll see me do a post here and there on my reels about how I keep my energy up with what products I use to make sure my sales are, you know, completely flowing and easy and solid. But it's strategic and it's connected. And I'm authentic, but it's like there is a strategy to it versus they're over here, they're like an AI chat GPT expert 1 minute, and now they're over here how to like grow and build your masterminds. Then they're over here like, here's how to like be a video expert, or like it can be or even more so. It's like, I'm a love coach and now I'm a nutritionist. Like it just can get kind of confusing, and you break trust that way. So make sure that if you decide something, you at least commit to it for 6 months. That's going to be a golden time for you to build trust. At least 6 months. You also grow influence by being willing to not be liked by other people, by being yourself, by being true to you, by telling it like it is. Sometimes you share things and some people aren't going to like it. In fact, the more polarizing you are, again, not for the sake of like being a, what starter, not for the sake of being like an instigator for the sake of being an instigator, but you really want your audience to start to have an experience of, I love this person because she speaks the truth and says it like it is, versus trying to be a people pleaser to everybody and not rock the boat. And, I get that these days, a lot of people find what I'm saying, even what I'm saying right now can be found offensive. There's a lot of cancel culture out there these days. These are just the times we live in. But if you're willing to have the courage to be fully you and to share your point of view with courage and authenticity and directness, it will be magnetic to your ideal people. And it will actually grow your influence and your trust with them. As soon as I sort of came out, I'm doing quotes for those of you that are listening with air quotes. As soon as I came out about how I was renouncing all of my old new age practices and business and shutting down my old business and, focusing on my faith and new age is not the answer. New age is deceptive. Actually, Jesus is the way. Yes, I'm Jewish. Jesus is still the way. I mean, that's a whole conversation there, but I'll tell you what, I get on the phone with someone who's interested in my masterminds. 9 out of 10 times, the first thing they say is, thank you for your boldness with your faith. Thank you for your honesty and your willingness to be unapologetic about that. The people who I want in my mastermind are those people. The people who are offended or upset by what I'm saying aren't even my people. So it's okay that I'm repelling them. And whatever that your version of that is, I encourage you to just be more bold about that. So your assignment for this section is to post a piece of content online that speaks to something that is relevant for your audience. And bonus points if it's connected to something that is polarizing. Okay. And then our fifth and final point in this episode is to be committed, but not attached. To be committed, but not attached. Okay. This requires faith and believing. I just want to acknowledge that right up front. This really is one of the most challenging, but important concepts for you to get if you're going to understand these top 5 needle movers, but it's worth it. It's worth it because it's the difference between referring back to my client again with her frustration and impatience about the client that she was emailing. It's the difference between her responding from a place of sensitivity and patience and solution orientation and magnetism versus a repelling energy. Because when you're attached, you're actually emanating a repelling energy. Okay. So the practice here is to go do something when this episode ends that boosts your faith. And one of the things that you can do is to just purge out, like journal out all of the ways that you feel committed or scared or not having faith. And then ask yourself for each of those things, is this ultimately true, or do I choose faith instead? And you'll start to find, as you actually take the time to do that, you do shift. You do have a mindset shift. So you can do that practice or do another practice, but like step into that new level of faith so that you can be committed but not attached. Okay. So in this episode today, you got clarity about how to focus your energy to get the best results every single day. My top 5 sales hacks, how you can move the needle the most. What I want you to do now is tag me in a story on Instagram and a picture of you listening to this podcast or a screenshot and doing one of these assignments and say, oh my gosh, I'm doing this assignment and it feels so good or whatever. Or like I'm doing this assignment and it's really stretchy and really hard, but I'm so excited about what it's going to create. Okay. And then if you want to have fun with this, do it with a friend. Send them this episode so you can be accountable with each other. And if this episode made a difference for you, I do ask that you subscribe. Bonus points if you leave a review. And then finally, make sure to go follow me on the Instagrams and the Facebooks for all the behind the scenes. And when you do, go leave a comment on my most recent post with your biggest takeaway from this podcast episode.